And that buzz you get by finding something and buying it at what you hope is a good price, and then passing it on to someone who gets the additional different buzz from getting a cool piece. The people who do people wrong or just don't fly right, there's no finish line for me. Absolutely no finish line.
That means you're doing the right thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're doing something a little different today. We are here with our friend John. He runs the shop Big Hair Nation. If you've been watching the channel for a long time, then you've seen John. We've seen you at a bunch of guitar shows. You've actually been kind enough to have us at your place and give us some cool guitars in the past. And now we're back, but rather than doing like a fresh finds where we just buy a bunch of guitars, we're just gonna talk this time. We're just gonna hang out.
Oh, are we gonna talk?
Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
My pleasure as always. Love seeing you guys. You're my favorite online creators, and maybe I'll be joining you soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's what we need. We need you in the YouTube space. You need to start making some content. So for those of you who aren't familiar with you, what do you do? From your perspective, how would you describe what you do?
What I do is no different than what everyone else does. I buy guitars and I sell guitars. I bought and sold my first guitar for profit when I was 16, and that was a long time ago. And I've kind of not looked back, and I've always done it. I've been buying and selling guitars since I was a teenager, and have gone down different paths, the rarest high-end stuff to cigar boxes with rubber bands on them, and everything in between. I love a guitar, but and I love a Burst and I love a Charvel. I love most of the stuff in between, but yeah, it's the six strings of salvation come in many ways, and I'm a fan of virtually all of them. And I'm a fan of buying them, finding them, and then passing them on to someone else and getting paid, and that's all. It's all part of the process. It's but they're guitars. I heard a guy say last night, and he was just talking about money, and he said if all you want is money, you just become money. Yeah. And I've never wanted to do that, and it's not been a problem. But that this is more than just a way to make money. This is a community, and it's a quest, and it's something I can't imagine not doing.
Yeah, that's the right reason to be doing it.
Yeah. I can't imagine not doing it. It'd be a huge hole in my life if I wasn't doing this.
I love that. Yeah, we always talk about this on the channel. Some people get so into the weeds on the business side, which is important. You need to run things correctly, and make sure things make sense financially. But if that's all you're after, this is not the business you should be in. There's a lot of businesses that are a lot easier to get where you might want to go than something this specific, where you gotta love it.
And that buzz you get by finding something and buying it at what you hope is a good price, and then passing it on to someone who gets the additional different buzz from getting a cool piece. We get it twice, hopefully, sometimes.
Yeah.
And
100%.
That is so worthwhile. And I would recommend it to anyone if you're thinking about doing it. And people say to me all the time, "Well, that sounds cool. It sounds really neat." Well, most days it is, but like any other business, there's going to be days when it's like, give me $20 and a bottle of whiskey and just take this mess. But it's at this stage of the game. I mean, I don't know how long I'm in this now. I mean, I'll be 62 this summer, and I sold my first guitar at 16. So
that's wild.
Long time.
You've been doing this for almost 2 of my lifetimes.
Yeah, right. And there's no finish line for me. Absolutely no finish line.
That means you're doing the right thing.
For me, yeah.
So what does your business look like right now? How do you sell? What are your platforms?
It's, I primarily sell on Reverb like everybody else and guitar shows. And there are certain guitars, I've developed, friends who are also core clients. I've sold guitars that have been on a pile of records. I've got clients in Nashville, clients in LA, many years ago, I bought at the old Nashville show. I just picked up the Southern Jumbo and put it to my ear and strummed it, and it was super loud. And I know who's going to want this guitar, and I didn't even show it to anyone else. I said, I know what this player wants. He's a famous producer, an amazing musician, but I know. I said, Butch is going to want this guitar, and when I gave it to him, he was like, well, obviously I want this guitar. And it's been on dozens and dozens and dozens of records, and records that have, the one download that this record is on, it has done over 1 billion downloads, and I'm not making that up.
You've had a brick and mortar in the past.
I did. Well, I owned a large live music venue here in Spartanburg for many years, and had loads of great bands coming through, and would buy and sell, to them or from them. And I owned the property, and we had a building that had shared a wall with a club, and we just converted it into a real tricked out, sexy guitar clubhouse. It was appointment only, but it was real swinging.
Right.
And was involved with it with my partner at the time, and we were rolling deep. The club was doing great, and we'd come in, we'd have 3 blackguards in there. We'd have all kinds of really cool, fun stuff. It was just and then just with the bands that were coming through, and there was something really super cohesive about it, and getting to know the musicians here, in the tri-state area, just becoming known as the guy who, I'll treat you right. I'll pay up, man. I'm not in the business of stealing guitars. I mean, I love a great deal as much as the next guy. The people who do people wrong or just don't fly right, especially now we're so connected, you're not long for it. The word gets out so quickly. You've got to be on your toes, and you've got to do the right thing as much as you possibly can. Look, you're going to piss someone off. Someone is going to piss you off. That's inevitable. But burning bridges is easy.
Right.
It's easy. Maintaining them is more difficult and takes more nuance.
Oh yeah, your reputation is always worth more than any one sale will ever be. So just, even if you're losing a little bit of money here and there.
Right. A guy will tell me sometimes if we're going to do it, if he's like, well, I don't really know you, and I'm like, look, I will sell you this guitar, and I'm not going to rip you off. Yeah. And I can hear the hesitation on his voice, and I kind of have a pat answer, and that answer is, listen, I don't want to sell you 1 guitar. I want to sell you 5 guitars. You're not looking down the road in that sense. You're not thinking this through. Yeah. Because there are plenty of guys out there who will burn a few people down the road, and especially now. Yeah. That's a short pony ride, man.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that for 30 plus years.
You have like a similar kind of mindset with your customer base too, right?
Oh yeah, we talk about this all the time in the shop, but it's like, because we're online and everything that we communicate is going to be coming through those listings, I'm always like, well, you need to underpromise. You need to underpromise and overdeliver on everything, right. And make sure that when somebody opens that guitar, that they're going to be more than happy with what they're receiving. And if they're not, take it back for the return. Don't worry about it. It's okay. If they don't like it, just send it back. Right. There's no problems. There's so many people that I'll hear these stories, especially working online, where they'll go, oh, I sold a guitar and then they wanted to return it, and so I fought them on it. It's like, just it's okay. Lose the one sale. Don't over-describe your guitar. Tell them everything you know about it. Did you get a guitar in that has, now it has the right pickups in it, but it didn't before? Just put in the listing, hey, it's got the right pickups now, but there's some touched up solder points, and these were dropped in later. It's like, yeah, they probably can't prove that. I mean, yeah, you can look at solder points, but with stuff like that, it's like, just give people all the information, and they'll realize that, oh, they aren't hiding anything. They have nothing to hide because they're telling you everything. And that's
right, yeah. And there are moments when it's like, wow, man, am I just eating it right now from this person? And there are moments when you can do that as well, that you can just go. No one wants to feel like a patsy. Yeah. And I don't think customers get leery when you do that as well. But at the same time, there's a line in this sand that can be drawn either by the seller or the buyer, and that there are some times when I sold a guy a Joe Perry poster a while back for $9 with free shipping. So it was really a $5 poster. Yeah. And the guy just was so rude from the jump. Where's my poster? Where is it? I'm like, dude, I put it in the mail. Here's the tracking number. Yeah. I'm not going to juice you on a $9 poster, man. And not to mention, I've got dozens of these things. My God, man, I'll just send you another one. But this guy was so just wanting to scream and shout. And I need to stamp my feet and hold my breath. And then it was just, no, man. And he'd leave me a negative feedback, and you know what? And Reverb was like, well, just send him his refund back. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave the feedback here. This is a $9 poster, and then I would have cheerfully sent him back. I would have canceled the order, but the guy just wanted, he wanted his pound of flesh, and sometimes there is nothing you can do about that. And I would tell any aspiring person selling online or in person, there's certain stuff you just shouldn't beat yourself up on. And it doesn't matter that it's just a $9 poster. It could be a $9,000 guitar. There are unreasonable people out there. Yeah. Customer's always right, kinda.
The customer's always right for feeling the way they feel.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, there's certain things that, we can't, you can place, sometimes if you think it's a reasonable person and going to be a long-term relationship, sometimes you will make certain concessions. Yeah. If you're going to get this twisted on a $9 poster, I don't think we have a future.
So before I did guitars, I don't know if we ever talked about this, I used to do like gaming electronics and like smaller dollar stuff, like eBay and Amazon, and it was higher volume, obviously lower dollars overall, and that was what strayed me away from that was the customers on the $9 sale will give you just as much of a hard time, if not more, than the $5,000 sale. For sure. And the thing is, I don't want to do any sale that I wouldn't be willing to get on the phone and have a conversation about it and give them my undivided attention. So that's why I moved away from doing the lower dollar stuff, because I just want to be able to provide everyone the same experience, whether it's like you're buying a Boss pedal or you're buying a vintage Jaguar. It's like,
well, you guys have seen me over the past year dabbling in memorabilia and shirts and stuff, and that just happened with a big, gigantic trade where I ended up with a bunch of this stuff and thought I would test the waters, and the waters have pretty much been tested, and it's probably great for shows. Yeah. They're very cool. They generate traffic to the booth.
Well, it's great for in person because you're not dealing with customer service on the back end.
Right. And there is such a difference. We are all familiar with the internet tough guy, tough girl, and that there's something great about just selling like here's your $9 poster. Thanks. Right. Enjoy that. We're done. Yeah. We're done. That you see this, you like it, you're good with this. Don't get in and go, well, the corner is
you saw it, you got to see it before you paid for it.
Right. Yeah. So certain things really are, and back before Lamar and I were broed up, I was doing a ton of pedals, and pedals are great for shows too. I mean, people show up at a show, they want to buy something.
Yeah, we've dealt with that a lot.
But not everybody's got a grand or two or 10 in their pocket. But everybody got a $100 bill, for the most part, or $40, and plenty of cool $40 pedals.
I was to say there's plenty of pedals in that range that are still great and something you can go play with at home. So the way we met was you and Lamar were doing a booth together in, I think it was Orlando. Yeah. And something I really liked about both you guys who do two different businesses, but both you guys, you run very simple business models. Your current iteration of what you're doing. It's very straightforward. You don't have like a huge commercial space you have to worry about. You don't have like a huge payroll. You just find cool stuff and you sell it through the shows and sell it online. And I think that's really cool. Not everything has to be this like over the top operation.
And I'm coming at it from having been in at one point running two businesses. I had a nightclub, big 800 capacity room. We're doing loads of bands and just, regular middle of the week madness and then had this guitar business, but once I sold my interest in the club and the properties, and I could see my future, and it was guitars, which I've been doing my whole life. But I'm like, I'm done with the nightclub business. Yeah. It was just over. I mean, by the time I was 40, I had 26 years in the business. Yeah. I came home from school and said, "Mom, I want an electric guitar." She said, "Great, they're hiring busboys up the street." That's how Mom rolled. And I never looked back. But I was done with food and beverage and the nightclub business. But it didn't dawn on me till once that had all, the dust had settled, and now I'm just grinding away at this, not having employees. No offense. I'm still friends with a pile of my guys. I still am. But just the idea of having to live and die with each decision, look, there's no one else. Yeah. I can't blame any of this on anyone else. No one else can do things untoward, which just happens, and especially in the bar business. Stuff goes missing. Stuff, right. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just the way it is. It's an occupational hazard. But this is just the idea of just being a one-man show is so appealing to me. Yeah. And it's, it takes effort, and it takes, the pedals has to, you're the only one with the throttle control. And, I had a monstrous 2023. I had a not so monstrous 2024. And the truth of the matter is, I worked harder in 2023 than I worked in 2024. I did a lot of pool time. I went fishing in Cuba. I did a lot of non-guitar stuff, and I didn't make the money.
Yeah.
It's
But
really
that's
simple.
okay. Life is balanced. It doesn't
But it's-
always need to be
It's
pedal to the
entirely up to the individual, and there are guys, out there who are more successful and less successful. For me, at this point in my life, it affords me balance. It affords me time, and that is worth something.
Oh, yeah.
Time to go, when someone says, hey, we're going tarpon fishing in Cuba for a couple of weeks, you in? Yeah, I'm in. This sounds great. And it was. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you get to stay on vacation the entire time. Yeah. And I've heard people say, well, I couldn't work for myself. Some people have to have someone standing over them cracking the whip. I think most people don't give themselves enough credit in that arena, and that you'd be surprised what you can do, especially if it's something you dig. Yeah. That you can absolutely do this. But there's a certain level of relentlessness that you've got to instill within yourself, because yeah, man, I love sleeping till noon and then kicking around and answering a few questions about guitars. And some days that's all it takes. Some days you have one of those days and you barely leave the couch and you make a five-figure sale, and yippee, you can't depend on that. And
that's not every day.
It sure isn't. I would say especially now, but it's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there with a lot of money who are really into guitars. There are people who are always going to want to buy guitars.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. Gil Southworth, mentor of mine in the business, once said, there will always be pinheads who have to buy guitars. I'm like, absolutely.
That leads us perfectly into what I was going to ask you. So we just did a video. We were talking about guitar markets changing. There are a lot of people got into guitar in 2020, 2021, which is really great. A lot of lower end guitars got put into the market because two reasons. One, that people that maybe didn't stick with it, but in a better way. Two, a lot of people got their first guitar. They're now 3-4 years into playing. They're buying their second, third, and 17th guitar. So there's a lot of the earlier stuff, a lot of the maybe more entry level stuff is going back on the market, and that subset is pretty flooded right now. Has that, the whole market's changing, but basically how has that changed with your business, and what are you trying to curate now because things are different?
Well, before we sat down, I was showing you a Les Paul Special covered in cowhide. I like a Les Paul Special covered in cowhide. I like
Les Paul Special.
Weird, quirky, give me something different. There's a picket fence around the world of Strats, Tellys, and Les Pauls. There just are.
Yeah.
We have reached maximum capacity. And more to the point, cheapy, a lot of that stuff is, some of it are really good, solid instruments. But
absolutely. That's one thing I feel like sorry not to catch up, but we didn't get into is like, just because the lower end stuff maybe is a bit abundant right now, doesn't mean that it's bad. That doesn't mean that that's not a great guitar for somebody who wants that to be their guitar.
Sure. At the same time, a lot of it is firewood. That it's unsellable,
Yeah.
and how much of it do you have to do now? It seemed like a year and a half ago you could buy a Mexican Strat for $300 and sell it for $500,
Yeah.
and that was, and they should be worth $500. Not sure if that's the case anymore. I don't do a ton of that, but all of the stuff below that, even some of that classic vibe stuff is good enough stuff. But even the starting off price point in that is so high right now.
Right.
I bought a gorgeous 2022 gold top with P90s yesterday for $1,000. And it's mint with the original case. And the guy was shocked that that's all I would pay. But I'm like, I know you paid a lot for this guitar, but I think it's an $1,800 guitar. And then I give Reverb their part. I'm not retiring on it.
Right.
I'm making a buck on it, but there's a ton of that stuff out there. And then even the lower end stuff, I don't even see it anymore,
The retail prices have gotten really crazy on a lot of stuff, and to keep it in scope.
I haven't bought a new guitar, and the last new guitar that I bought, I believe I bought in 1981.
That's crazy.
Hamer Standard Sunburst from Rainbow Music in New Paltz, New York, yeah. And that was, I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I was still a teenager when I bought my last new guitar. I just don't know why anyone would do it. I don't want to know why anyone would buy a new guitar.
Yeah.
You know, I had this woman say to me, I'm looking for, you sell guitars. Well, I want to buy him a Les Paul in blue jean blue. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. You know, I said, look, I'll find you a used one, you know. These are cool guitars. And she looked at me with almost this look of horror, like, well, I don't want to buy him a used one. I'm like, lady, it's not a mattress, you know, I mean, come on. There are some things you probably shouldn't buy used.
Sure.
Guitar ain't one of them.
No,
I never heard anyone getting cooties from a guitar.
Is there anything that you want us to?
Ask me anything you want. I'm an open book.
Oh, I got one. Most memorable gig you've ever played?
Most memorable gig.
Whatever comes to mind first, that's the most memorable one.
Opening for the Ramones.
Fire.
Good, actually.
That's sick.
You know, come on. Pretty cool. You know, it's a teenager. You know,
That's sick. When was this?
that would have been 1981, 82.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, in New York. You know, I mean, that's where I grew up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
That is actually really sick.
Yeah. I was really scared. I was shaking, but you know, I played a lot of gigs where I just, you know, totally in the moment and just burning, you know, just on fire, you know, with my punk rock self, man. Just you know, those gigs when you're Joe Strummer described as barely being able to see because the sweat is running down in your eyes, and you know, you're just on stage and nothing else matters. You know, I've had a number of those moments where you're just almost out of body, man. Where you're just nothing else matters, but you are in that moment, and the little bit of light is crackling through the sweat in your eyeballs, and you're just firing, man. Yeah, but I've had a number of those.
What was the name of your band when you opened for the Ramones?
Can't be doing that these days.
Was that your main band?
That was in New York, and then when I moved to South Carolina, and then my band was Crazy Ethel.
Crazy.
Yeah, and you know, that was and I was more of a mature person, I mean, that was, you know, we had great front man, and just we were out trying to get it, man, trying to get a record deal, just out grinding it, you know, playing the Southeast. I mean, back then you could really become a good band. I mean, there were, you know, you could play that circuit from DC, just going down 95, 85, all the way down to Florida, and just play. And that's how bands got good. That's how bands get good, is by playing lots of gigs. You know, when I had my nightclub, you know, I would have these bands, and these agents would sell me on the band, you know, and then that band would go out for a year of just playing 5-6 shows a week, and they'd come back, and they're completely different. I mean, it's like, well, okay, this is a real band now. Marty Stewart once referred to it as road hot. That, you know, you get out and you get good by playing. Yeah. You can rehearse all you want, just not the same, man.
No, it's not.
Absolutely, it's still just as true today.
And so many people just don't have that point of reference. They don't have, you know, when you see a band that does this for a living, that just gets out and gets after it every night, you see that and you go, oh yeah, I get it now. It's another level.
I always notice at shows when it'll be like a smaller touring package where there's maybe a local or two locals on the show, and then you have maybe 3 touring bands come through. And the last local that plays is probably the same popularity level as the first band of the package that's been touring. But when it flips over to that band that's been playing that set every single night, it's
no comparison. And yeah, people have a hard time getting that.
John, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Thank you for being on camera.
Man, thank you, man. Thanks
appreciate it.
for doing this, man. It's, you know, I got a million stories. Some are more interesting than others, but it's this thing we do, it's ours, man. Yeah. Not everyone can do it, and you've made such an impact so quickly that, you know, you're one of those guys people immediately like and are gravitated to. You handle yourself, and I appreciate that, because not everybody does.
Well, you're too kind. I really appreciate that, man. Thank
True.
you.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, hey, thank you everybody for watching. We appreciate it. Let us know if you want us to do more stuff like this. I know we usually do more like vlog content, more fresh finds, whatever stuff, but we would love to do more stuff like this where it's more conversational. We'll see you guys again in another video soon. Bye.